Warning: this video is recorded before E3. Any E3 news and anything that came out around that time will be its own video. This video is only for the information that came out around the time of June 2nd and Coro-Coro leaks.
Thanks to Coro-Coro leaks, I can now properly make this video, and it's going to be longer than I wanted it to be. But anyway, welcome to this particular video.
Pokemon! 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 Pokemon!
Hello everyone, I'm Dustin Benzel, and welcome to another Pokemon discussion. Another Pokemon Sun and Moon discussion. Today I'm going to talk about the June 2nd video, or the information that was revealed on June 2nd, and I'm going to reveal information that was leaked in Coro-Coro, as well as other things that were revealed here and there. So, you may have wondered why I haven't been able to upload a video in regards to Sun and Moon if you don't watch my anime reviews or whatever. It's because I was house sitting for a week and I'm back and I had to make notes, and everything that was revealed, so I had to add upon. So I'm finally now able to record this particular video. So because of the most likely length of this particular video being extremely long, there will be timestamps of certain aspects of my video in the description below, as well as I'm not going to be able to show you my live highlights of the June 2nd trailer that I actually recorded. I will probably maybe upload that as a separate own video, potentially, if you want to see my live reaction to all the new information that was revealed on June 2nd, but there wasn't really all that much that was revealed that was shocking and earth-shattering, so maybe it would be best that you just listen to this particular video. So anyway, let's jump right into this particular video. So, as I said, June 2nd didn't reveal anything too shockingly new, at least in comparison to the first gameplay trailer that revealed a lot of stuff that we could work with. So instead, it was more of clarifying what we kind of already knew, or what we assumed. There was at least one surprise in the June 2nd trailer or whatever, but otherwise it's just kind of giving us a little bit more information of things that we already were aware of. And also, I'm only going to talk about certain aspects of a particular trailer. You know, I'm not going to do an in-depth of everything, because looking at my notes in regards to this video is going to be longer than I really want it to be. So anyway, so I'm going to show you this screenshot here, and of course you'll see that it is a giant map of what is actually the Alola region. Now, the reason why I mentioned this, because if you saw my initial Sun and Moon gameplay trailer when we first saw the starters and everything, well, not in that particular video, but the exploring the Alola region, I did talk about how short the Alola region looked when it was just that island. I mean, within the game, everything was scaled, so it looked really realistic, at least in the sense that everything was huge, and it looked like you would have this giant region to explore, but at the same time, the island didn't look like it could cover a whole entire region. So the screenshot you're seeing right now is actually the full region map. At least I'm assuming. I don't know if they're going to reveal anything else in regards to the Alola region, but it looks like this is the full region map so far. It does look like a full region now. It's got 4 big main islands and a little bit of islands elsewhere. One island that I didn't even recognize when I made the notes, of course. So anyway, so if we look at the top left, I will have an arrow on the picture as well, but this one appears to be the starting island, the island that we were first shown. And the reason why I say this is because it's the only island that has that volcano looking thing with that ridged opening that we saw in the first Alola region map that we got. Not to mention that if you go over here where the arrow will move to, you'll see this blue building. We definitely see that, of course, in that Alola region first map that we got. So I'm assuming that this is the starting island, because none of the other islands that I see remotely resemble anything of what we already know. So I want to go ahead and talk about this particular island first, and well, there's really not much to say other than it's the starting island. I've already said as much as I possibly can. I don't know if I said it or some other PokeTuber said it or whatever, but I do think that there may be some parts of the island, the starting island, that we can't access, except maybe like post-league or at some particular moment. So hopefully this island will still have a lot of surprises even when we go explore the other islands. So, of course, let's go directly to the right. And, of course, we run into this particular island. We have what looks like an active volcano. I don't know if that's technically a volcano. It looks like it's all steaming, and it looks like it's like got lava on it or whatever. But I don't know if that's classified as a volcano. But it does look like this is definitely going to be an island where, of course, we're going to capture a lot of the new fire type Pokemon, because this steaming volcano and there's steam going all over the place on this particular island, that it would make sense that of course we would get fire types in that. Also, I want to note at the base of this active volcano, it looks like some sort of creepy building. From a distance, it almost looks like a giant monster with one glowing eye and a mouth, where the road, the walkway can go into it, and it looks like it's connected to the island. I just wanted to point that out because when I was making my notes, it really looked like that was going to be something or whatever. So, but then if we come over here, it looks like we have like these man-made pools that are like stacked upon each other, and they're like leaking. That I definitely think that's going to be a very interesting location to visit within the games. And so there's really nothing more I can say about this island, potentially more fire types. But if we come over to this connected island, which seems to be connected to like some sort of road bridge of some sort, we can see that it looks like there might be like a forest area around here or something, But what's also important is, while I can't see it in this image because this image is low quality, if you go to the Pokemon.com, the English version or whatever version is, where they actually have it and you like zoom in, you can actually see a lighthouse looking thing. And so it's really nice that of course we see a lighthouse, although it is a little strange that based on the other islands it looks like there's only one. Well, maybe there's another lighthouse over there, but yeah, so there's that. Also, I am going to talk about the thing that is immediately to the left. Now, in my notes, I had everything organized, and I was going to talk about certain things or whatever. I think that's some sort of building or some sort of skyscraper in the middle of the ocean or whatever. I will talk about that last. So let's, of course, move on to one of the biggest island that the Alola region has to offer. And of course we have this giant mountain with snow caps on it, or whatever you want to call it, ice caps. This is good because I was afraid that the tropical region would have very little ice Pokemon in it, and it looks like my fears are a little alleviated, because what we see here is a mountain that looks like it's very high in the sky, and it looks like there will definitely be plenty of ice Pokemon that could appear. Is that the only location that ice Pokemon will be found? I'm not sure, but it looks like a majority of the new ice Pokemon that exist will probably be on this particular island. Before I go back to the mountain with the ice on top of it, I want to go to this particular building structure here, and in my notes I said that I feel like this is like some sort of enclosed miniature town or whatever, or a village of some sort, and you need to like do some sort of quest to gain access, because it does look like it's some sort does look like there's buildings, and there's like this giant building, and it looks like it's some completely surrounded by a giant wall. Like no one is allowed in there. It's very private. It's very separated from it. So it looks like it'll be something interesting that we can explore. So then let's go back to the island. Now if we go into the front of the island where my black arrow should be showing, we see what looks like this hole in the mountain, and if we look at the bottom, there's like this building of some sort. It almost looks like that there will be some sort of elevator or some sort of ascending thing or whatever that allows you to scale the mountain and climb it and go or whatever. So I don't know if it's in a cave and you just have to climb up these ladders like in all the other Pokemon games and eventually reaching the top, or maybe there's an elevator that reaches a particular point, then you go into the cave and then you can go a little bit below, but there's like nothing connecting or whatever. So it'll be interesting to explore that. Like I said, with how the game looks, this island is going to be a fun location to look, because if the starting island is as big as it appeared in the games, despite the map of what it looks like, I'm definitely looking forward to all these other islands, because I feel like it's going to take out days to explore every little itty bitty bit of the Alola region. So of course, let's move on to the final giant island. So it looks like that we have this port over here or whatever, which with a bunch of piers, and it looks like it's like a little miniature island with piers coming from it, and the island is like in the shape of a boat or a plane or whatever. So that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what that'll look like in the actual games or whatever. So then of course we come over to this black structure type area, and it looks like these are like dead or extinct volcanoes or whatever, inactive volcanoes or whatever. At least that's what it looks like. So then I feel like this is going to be the island of mystery and ancient mysteries, because if we come over here, we have this giant pointy thing jutting out from the ground with some white structure next to it. I think that's some sort of pyramid. I mean, I don't think it's exactly a pyramid, but I think it's something similar to a pyramid, so and whatever. And then of course it looks like it's surrounded by this canyon area or whatever. And maybe we'll, looking at the other islands, there are some places where we can potentially see ground type, like the big island right next to the ice mountain. There's this pit of sand over here or whatever, but it looks like we're primarily going to get some like ground type Pokemon here, maybe some psychic types and rock types, some ancient types or whatever, so it'll be interesting. Over here we have this little particular island, and I'm not sure what it's for. I'm assuming that maybe it'll be for some legendary Pokemon, because it doesn't look like there's really anything to talk about in regards to that little island. It is pretty big in comparison to everything else, at least the miniature island. So it does seem like it's going to have some important role or whatever. So before I talk about what I think is the big building in the center of the map or whatever, I did just notice when I was looking at this map just right now after making my notes and stuff, but there does seem to be like this crescent moon type island over here where you can see the black arrow or whatever. So I wonder if that's like something mysterious, because I did hear a rumor. I don't know if it's real or not, because I cannot find any information on it, but apparently there's some sort of artificial island of some sort. But what I want to talk about is this giant thing in this middle of everything, that if we look to the right, we can see what looks like a boat. We can see a boat or whatever here, but okay, but if this is like some boat or whatever, or some sort of ship of some sort or whatever, it's huge. So I'm thinking it's actually a miniature island with a giant building attached. In my notes, I said that it could be the Pokemon League. Maybe that's where we go. We take a boat when we have all 8 badges. We go over there. We battle the Elite Four and champion there. Or it could be some sort of battle tournament, battle frontier, battle tower type situation. Or it could be the Evil Team's organization. So that's all I really wanted to say in regards to that particular image or whatever. So I think that's all I want to say about the particular islands. So for right now, until we get more information later. So let's go ahead and move on to... Okay, let's move on to the characters now, since we have a little bit more information. So, of course, what I want to talk about is the main character, and of course, what we see is the most important thing, and everyone's talking about it. I mean, no one really cares about the designs, I don't think, of the main characters. They're pretty plain and generic outside of certain skin tones of the characters. They're a little bit more unique in general. But, of course, what we have is the main characters, and the most important thing on these characters, of course, is, of course, the bracelet. You can especially see the bracelet on the male character here. I don't know if I'm going to get a picture, but maybe I can show you somehow. And what we see here is, of course, a weird bracelet with, of course, the gem from Pokemon Sun's logo, while we can assume that the female protagonist has the version from Pokemon Moon. The Japanese logos, anyway, where they have that little diamond revive shaped crystal there or whatever, and a lot of people are speculating of what it could be. And I think what it could be, and I feel like I don't think they're going to completely get rid of Mega Evolutions, so it makes you wonder, well, how are Mega Evolutions going to be a thing when they're wearing a bracelet, but there's obviously no keystone, because that doesn't look like a keystone. So I've thought of a few possibilities here, and I think the best one I can think of is if, of course, something similar to Ash Greninja, regarded as synchro evolution by fans, and including me, if that is going to be something that appears in the games, and we're going to get Pokemon that are going to take the appearance of the trainer and have like this special Mega Evolution type evolution change or whatever, I do think this is going to be what it is. Now, what this could be in relation to Mega Evolution is, I still think, of course, Mega Stones are going to be important, but Mega Stones are going to be important, but I don't necessarily think we need to have them being held on to the Pokemon. I know that's like strange and everything or whatever. That'd be a weird concept how they were introduced the first time, but now they don't necessarily have to be hold on to the actual Pokemon. But remember, the most powerful Mega Evolution, the most overpowered, the most uber Mega Evolution is Mega Rayquaza, and that is a Pokemon that does not require a Mega Stone to be held onto it, because apparently within the story it swallowed its own Mega Stone basically, and it only Mega Evolves when it has the move Dragon Ascent, which makes it completely overpowered and unfair to the other Mega Evolutions. So I think to scale back Mega Rayquaza's strength of being able to hold whatever move it could, or item that it can ever hold, which I'm pretty sure it doesn't, it can do whatever, that's why it's so OP, overpowered, is that we need to create some way that keystones are still important, but we don't necessarily have to hold them on the Pokemon. And I think what's going to happen is, of course, there is going to be a device, a machine of some sort, where you will store all your Mega Evolutions. So what I'm saying is, I feel like this machine is going to hold all the Mega Stones that we can, so they're still going to be viable, they're still going to be linked or whatever, but there's going to be this massive machine or whatever that's going to hold these particular Mega Stones, and it's going to transmit Mega Evolution energy and data to the new bracelets, and of course, then potentially that means that you'll be able to Mega Evolve your Pokemon without a Mega Stone. Or, if I'm wrong, and that's not a thing, because the thing that I'm thinking of is, because of a device like this that is actually connecting to a machine or a computer that's accessing data, like Mega Evolution data or whatever, and transmitting it to a Pokemon, I feel like it would make sense for a device like that to ultimately create similar to synchro evolution. I feel like this particular device is going to be something like that, where it sends data, the trainer's data, to the Pokemon, and that's how we're going to get synchro mega evolution. And I feel like that would make sense game wise to have that kind of side effect in regards to that, where of course the trainer wouldn't have any mega evolution data, but the Pokemon is still being transmitted data from the bracelet, which is basically recording the trainer's information, its vitals, and everything. So I feel like it would make sense in that particular regard that the side effect to having this bracelet or whatever would cause Pokemon to synchro mega evolve or synchro evolve or whatever as a side effect from not having any energy to mega evolve a certain Pokemon, and certain Pokemon can't mega evolve, so they synchro evolve or whatever. So just my theory. If not, I feel like the crystal may be the little gem that's inside the bracelet. I feel like that might be a Keystone 2.0 version. I feel like what this means is that it will probably be able to do both. Maybe it can act as a keystone, but also act as whatever catalyst causes Pokemon to potentially synchro evolve, if that's going to be a thing. So that's all I wanted to say in regards to that. So let's move on to Professor Kukui. Now, I'm really glad that he is actually the professor, because I was a little concerned as to why he was wearing a lab coat or whatever, and he looked like a professor more than the other guy, How, or not How, never mind, Hala. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Hala, is just some old-looking guy or whatever that just sent out the Pokemon that happened to have a tree name or whatever, so it was kind of bizarre why he would be the professor just because he was sending out the Pokemon. Because if you remember, in last generation, Tierno was the one that gave us our Pokemon, and it was Professor Sycamore, which was the professor. So, of course, he is interested in researching Pokemon moves, and so that's like other professors who research other things like Sycamore, Mega Evolution, Juniper for origins of the Pokemon, and of course other things. So it's really nice that we have a professor here, Kukui, and of course he's the professor. And it looks like he might be married, because it looks like there's some sort of ring on his finger. I don't know if he is married or not, but he might be married. So anyway, just a little bit more to talk about in regards to this. If he is the professor that researches Pokemon moves and stuff, I'm really hoping that we get a plethora of really cool moves that will appear in the game. More moves that allow for Flying Press. More moves that cause Pokemon to evolve. Moves that cause Pokemon to Mega Evolve or Synchro Evolve or whatever by just using the move, or just change forms using on that move. I think that would be really cool to illustrate why he is into Pokemon moves, because in the Alola region, there's all these Pokemon that have all these move conditions or whatever. I do think Professor Kukui is definitely someone who would want to research Rayquaza with Dragon Ascent. So anyway, one last thing. They didn't reveal Hala, the old guy that we saw in the trailer sending out the Pokemon. I'm going to default back to what I said in my first video in regards to all the characters being revealed and stuff. Well, not all the characters, but the characters revealed at the time. I am still thinking that Hala is some sort of village elder, or Alola elder, or president, or mayor of the entire Alola region, and he was just visiting the town because there was someone who just moved to the Alola region, and he just so happened to have time to go visit. And of course he's like, oh, you don't have a Pokemon? Well, here you go, here's your Pokemon, choose between these three Pokemon. So I think that's where Hala comes in. So I feel like that's Hala's role, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Where maybe next character things that are revealed, maybe they'll reveal. Maybe Hala Hala will be like some sort of gym leader or Elite Four or champion of some sort, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. So then we move on to the one new character that was actually revealed that we were not expecting at all because it was not shown in the first trailer, and of course that is Lillie. It says here that Lillie is a mysterious girl who assists the professor. She is working as Professor Kukui's assistant for personal reasons. She's not fond of Pokemon making Pokemon fight in battles, but she loves reading and has devoured many books. I'm sure that's metaphorical and not literal, because if we see Lillie eating a book within the games, I'm gonna try to avoid her. But it says here that Lillie will play an important role in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and I feel like Lillie is going to be like the major researcher assistant of the entire Alola region, as in she knows things more so than a lot of other people. You know, I'm sure the evil team will have their own researchers researching things or whatever, but I feel like Lillie is going to be a one-up on everything that's going to happen within the Alola region more so than the professor and all the other characters, because she has read a lot of things in the book, and who knows, maybe she has read a book that is so reserved, so private, because she does look rich, at least. Yeah, she does look like she does come from money, so maybe she has some very rare Alola books that have told or have said something about the Alola region that most people don't know, because the books are so rare. So at least I think maybe that's what her role is. I don't think she's going to be a powerful trainer character, because she doesn't like making Pokemon fight in battles, so it'd be kind of weird for her to be this strong trainer unless she grows to like Pokemon battling because of the main character or whatever, but I guess we'll just have to see. So let's move on to How. My mistake of calling the old guy How. I mean, they do look related, and it did seem like they were related in that one trailer. I think we saw How next to the old guy. It may have been the June 2nd trailer, but here we go. We have this friendly trainer here. He's probably going to be your friendly rival, but he's just your friend, basically. He's like one of your first friends that you'll make in the Alola region. He has a weakness, and apologies if I mispronounce this, but malasada, which is apparently some sort of dessert of some kind. Let's see if I have my notes here. It's a Portuguese confection made of egg-sized balls of yeast dough, deep-fried, oil-coated with granulated sugar. So that kind of sounds good. I mean, I'd have to try it, but or whatever. But yeah, looks pretty good. He also likes Pokemon. He loves Pokemon. He's a big-hearted boy who loves Pokemon. So yeah, he has a big appetite. You're probably going to see him chowing down. Of course, for whatever reason, him having a big appetite is a little insulting because he's not fat. Just saying, there are people who love food, but unfortunately they get fat for eating food. So come on now. So anyway, that's all there needs to be said in regards to that. So let's move on to the actual Pokemon, and this probably will be a lengthy portion of the video or whatever. So of course we have Solgaleo and Lunala. So first I want to get the main points out of the way before we talk about their particular types, because there's a lot to discuss. So basically, Solgaleo, yes, the lion is confirmed to be called Solgaleo. It has full metal body, which allows it to not have any of its stats lowered whatsoever. So Intimidate, Growl, Tail Whip, moves that lower defense like Shadow Ball will not have that kind of effect on Solgaleo because of its body. Of course, in Lunala's case, it has Shadow Shield, which lowers the damage of any attack when it's at full health. So a lot of people are comparing it to multi-scale or whatever, Marvel scale or whatever, that I think Dragonite has as its secondary ability, and I think Milotic may have that ability as well. But of course, the most important aspects, of course, was the typing. Now, initially, I was confused as to why Solgaleo happens to be a Psychic Steel. I mean, I didn't have any problem with it being a Psychic type because that does actually make sense that Solgaleo would be a Psychic type. And I will, of course, talk about why I feel like it makes sense why Solgaleo would be a Psychic type. I even mentioned this earlier when I initially thought Solgaleo could have been a Fire Psychic type. So Psychic type does make sense, as well as does Lunala, which is also part Psychic. But we'll focus on Lunala's second typing when we talk about it. Now when I first knew that Solgaleo was going to be a Steel type, I was absolutely mind-boggled as to why, even when I was making these notes that I've made, I really did not know why Solgaleo was a Steel type. It made no sense that the box art legendary for Pokemon Sun would be a Steel type and not a Fire type. But one YouTuber out there, PokeTuber or whatever, definitely explained why Solgaleo is a Steel type. Now, I don't know if it's confirmed, but at least it makes sense now. So, of course, that PokeTuber... The thing is, I was still trying to wrap my head around why Solgaleo was a Steel typing, and I saw this PokeTuber's video in, like, recommended list or whatever, and it said, why is Solgaleo a Steel type? That PokeTuber, if I can properly pronounce his name, I'm not really sure. I think it's Dookieshed. I apologize if that's not how you pronounce his name. I don't really remember what he said in his particular video in regards to his name. But anyway, his link to the video will be in the description below, so watch it. It definitely gives a good explanation for why Solgaleo is in fact a Steel type. So let's do some bullet points. Now, the important thing is, if we go into the main Pokemon.com website or whatever, the English or Japanese or whatever, I'm sure it's pretty much the same thing. But basically it says here, since ancient times, Solgaleo has been honored as the emissary of the sun. Now, Dookieshed explained that this actually could relate to a servant of the sun, which would explain why Solgaleo would be weak against what we would assume is the typing that a sun-related entity would be based off in regards to a Pokemon typing, which would be fire. Granted, the sun is not fire, but since I highly doubt that there will be like heat or plasma or something of that nature that emanates heat, the closest typing that we're going to get on a normal scale is, of course, fire type. Now, of course, there are possibilities that it could be a psychic type, but of course, we'll talk about that later. So anyway, of course, the emissary of the sun typically would refer to something as a servant, so it would make sense that Solgaleo would be weak against fire because it's a servant of the sun. Now, the more interesting thing, of course, is that it's referred to with reverence as the beast that devours the sun. Now, of course, that makes it seem kind of contradictory, right? You would think that something that could devour the sun in this hypothetical description here would be something that can combat fire typing or whatever. But as it turns out, as Dookieshed explains in his video, that's in relation to something known as alchemy. I don't want to get too into it if you want to watch Dookieshed's video, but basically what he said is Solgaleo represents some sort of acidic compound that eats all metals except gold, which is represented by the sun in regards to alchemy. So basically the impurities of metals and only leaving gold kind of seems that servant of the sun, which is the gold. Of course, you may want to check out his particular video to see why. So that does make sense why Solgaleo is a Steel type. So it makes sense to me. It's a good theory. Otherwise, if Dookieshed is wrong in his theory and it has absolutely nothing to do with that, and it's Game Freak being Game Freak just because Game Freak can do whatever they want, I'm going to be a little disappointed, but, at the very least they can lie, right? Well, we didn't intend for that to be the case, but That seems to be a thing. So anyway, there's one thing that I did forget to mention before I talked about the types, and of course that's their new signature move. And of course, Solgaleo can learn the move Sun Steel Strike, which charges at the opponent with the force of a meteor, disregarding the target's ability. Like Lunala's Moongeist Beam, which has a similar effect and does pretty much the same thing, but is Lunala's signature move. So anyway, let's move on to Lunala. Now, Lunala is, of course, the Psychic and Ghost typing. Now, before I talk about the Ghost typing, I want to explain why Psychic makes sense for both of these Pokemon. These are pretty much mythological, cosmic, legendary Pokemon. You know, we have Solgaleo, which is an emissary of the sun. We also have Lunala, which is the emissary of the moon. So those being a psychic type would make sense because a lot of the space Pokemon that we have that have come from space or implied to come from space are part psychic. Deoxys, definitely an extraterrestrial Pokemon, is part psychic. Solrock and Lunatone, which have landed on the Pokemon planet or the Pokemon world, is also part psychic. You know, it's a meteor, but it's also from space, so it's part psychic. We even have Pokemon that are based off of aliens, extraterrestrial aliens, LGM and BEM, which are also psychic types. So I think stars, suns, other extraterrestrial planets or whatever, comets, asteroids, I think they would all best be represented by the psychic type, especially when you regards the psychic concept of being psychic. There's a lot of relation to astrological signs and a lot of space signs because of the vastness of space, and you would think that psychic power would draw from that, so that makes sense. Now, of course, my issue with Lunala's ghost typing is, while it does make sense, Lunala could be a ghost type. It does make sense. After all, we can see that Lunala has this vampiric appearance, and, you know, it would be undead, basically, if this was a real-life creature, probably. It'd probably be labeled as an undead creature, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. But it definitely does strike me as something that would be undead, like a ghost, a vampire, basically. You know, something that happens at night. And I don't want to quite go into my theory of why I think it could be. I think the moon is basically something that has four types of energies, if I'm not mistaken. Well, three main energies and one in relation to a certain Pokemon. But I think the moon would best represented by the psychic type, the fairy type, the ghost type because of Lunala, as well as the dark type. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, well, that's a little strange, Dustin. The dark type doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean nighttime or whatever, but I would have to counter with Umbreon. Now, I don't know if the English took liberties in regards to that, but there's also one other Pokemon that is also a sun Pokemon. And I neglected to mention Volcarona, which is a fire type, but that's Volcarona. But Espeon is also known as the sun Pokemon, and it is pure psychic. So that goes along with that space-like theme of things in like outer space in regards to the galaxy and the universe would be represented by a psychic typing. So, of course, that would apply as well to the moon. So why is Umbreon, the moonlight Pokemon, drawing power from the moon and also being a dark type? I think it's as simple as, in this one instance of a dark type, it is in relation to night, or, you know, nighttime in an actual literal sensation, the literal sense of dark, not immoral or anything, because Umbreon really isn't immoral. The only evil aspects that Umbreon have is basically self-defense poison, because it does spew toxins as a self-defense mechanism. So I don't necessarily think that it's actually an evil type. So I think in this instance, for because it would make sense because the dark type was introduced to check psychic types. It would make sense that, of course, Umbreon would be a dark type. And we can't say that if Umbreon were to exist now, it would be a fairy type, because fairy type has no type relation or connection with the psychic typing, so it would be whatever. So I feel like they wanted to create a contrasting type. Espeon, a psychic type, would make sense, you know. And then, of course, they would want to contrast with that with Umbreon, which would have no choice to be a dark type. I mean, I suppose it could have been a ghost type, which would have been interesting, but I feel like they wanted to capitalize on the dark typing simply because it was a new typing at that time. But Umbreon could have also been a ghost typing. In fact, I wouldn't have been surprised if Umbreon was a dark ghost type, if it was going to be a dual typing. So then, of course, the one thing that we can see about Lunala in comparison to Solgaleo is that Lunala represents like the horror cliche. I mean, Lunala is very creepy. I will not be surprised if we get a movie where Lunala is this evil nighttime creature going around and scaring creatures, or scaring humans and scaring Pokemon, because it definitely does look like something that you don't want to meet at night. And I feel like the night would be represented by the ghost typing, because a lot of the things that are related to spiritual aspects or paranormal or whatever, they always happen at night. Very rarely will you see a movie where there is some supernatural entity or creature or being that attacks during the day. Not saying it's impossible, but most of the time it happens at night. So, of course, Lunala being best represented at night, the moon, because that's when the night comes out, would, of course, potentially be a ghost type. So, that's all I wanted to say in regards to that. I did have a little bit more explanation as to why Lunala is a ghost type, but basically it does make sense that Lunala is a ghost typing because it is best represented by the night aspect. You know, the only issue, of course, I have is that it is weird that it's not a fairy type, because it does call upon the moon and it absorbs the light and converts it into energy. And while that would make sense for the psychic typing, it's just that it's weird that last generation, everything associated with the moon turned into a fairy type. Well, except Umbreon, of course. We have Moonlight, the actual move, which was turned into a fairy type. We have Moonblast, that says it absorbs the energy from the moon and creates a moon energy and fires at it. So it's a little strange that Lunala is not part fairy, which is why I thought it was going to be part fairy, because it had relation to a moon. But I guess the psychic type is what makes it sense. You know, maybe the moon isn't just a fairy type, maybe it's not just a psychic type, it's just that it can be represented by multiple types in regards to its energy, and depending on the Pokemon, determines what that energy is. If it's a fairy Pokemon, it absorbs fairy energy from the moon. If it's Lunala, maybe psychic or ghost energy. So I guess that makes sense or whatever. So I think that's all I'm going to say in regards to that. So I think we're about done. Oh, also, Solgaleo is the Sune Pokemon, I believe. I think that's how you pronounce it. And Lunala is the Moone Pokemon. Sune, S-U-N-N-E, and Moone as in M-O-O-N-E. So, that's it. So let's, of course, move on. And, of course, that's the final thing that was introduced in June 2nd, and then we'll talk about Coro-Coro and other things. Now, this one was the most shocking thing to actually appear. I mean, the typings of the Pokemon were probably very shocking for a lot, but I guess technically you could assume that was the case. I mean, after all, I did think that Lunala could have been a Steel type or whatever. But anyway, the one interesting that we were not at all expecting that completely came out of nowhere, I guess Lillie could count as well, but of course that is the Rotom Pokedex. Now, the Rotom Pokedex is one of the coolest things that could possibly exist in Pokemon Sun and Moon, because it's like taking over the Poketch or the Pokegear or whatever. It seems like it's going to be that secondary device or whatever that you get that'll help you on your journey or whatever. So it looks really cool. It's a Rotom that has taken the shape of a Pokedex, a very special Pokedex. And it says here, the Rotom Pokedex is an extremely rare device. There are only a few trainers that even have one. So according to the trailer that we got, it does seem like the Rotom Pokedex can indeed speak human, well, English if it's an English version or Japanese, but it does seem like it does speak the human language when it is there, and I think it can communicate with your Pokemon through Rotom and stuff, and I feel like that would definitely be interesting aspect of Pokemon. So now, the one thing that we don't know is whether or not Rotom Pokedex is its own Pokemon thing or whatever. You know, it would make sense. Rotom Pokedex is a Pokemon, but it's regarded as a device, which is very strange. I don't know if this is the case of Rotom permanently inhabiting a device or whatever, but it would be very disappointing if the Rotom Pokedex did not enter or did not show up in battle. And a lot of people are like, well, if Rotom Pokedex is going to be a Pokemon that battles, then that would mean that it would have to take up a slot. I don't necessarily think so. I think if Rotom Pokedex is going to be a Pokemon that can be sent out in battle, I do believe that it will take place in a special slot. It'll be the Rotom Pokedex slot. When you have less than 6 Pokemon, Rotom Pokedex's slot will be active and you can use it in battle, so it can serve as your 6th Pokemon whenever it is. But you will also have that empty 6th slot where you can capture new Pokemon or whatever. When that happens, the slot will be locked out and you cannot use Rotom in battle. Basically, the equivalent would be like Pikachu, Ash's Pikachu in the anime. Ash's Pikachu does count as its own slot, counting towards the 6 Pokemon, but of course it's right next to Ash. It's not used in battle. It doesn't really count as a battle Pokemon, and it's kind of similar in that instance where Rotom Pokedex may indeed be able to battle if there's less than 6 Pokemon, but it's just your traveling device companion when you already have 6 other Pokemon, which I think would be interesting. Now, I think a lot of people would be like, well, that's a little unfair. I mean, why can't we just have that for all the Pokemon, you know? But I don't think that would actually be beneficial, because the slot would be locked out if you caught a 6th Pokemon, and it's not something that you can, like, trade. I mean, it would be interesting to have a trade-in for a 7th Pokemon or whatever, but what I'm thinking is this is just going to be a special battle slot, special Pokemon slot for the Rotom Pokedex, so you can have it, but have 6 other Pokemon. If I'm wrong and it does take up its own slot and it can be used for battle, I guess that's fine. You don't necessarily have to use it to battle. It could just be there. The more interesting thing is I'm actually curious as to what this actually means. Is the Rotom Pokedex a permanent form? Can it turn off and you get a Rotom or whatever? Or maybe the one thing that it can do is Rotom Pokedex may not actually be able to battle, but when you have Rotom and it goes into the Pokedex to create the Rotom Pokedex, it's removed from your party. And of course you can't change the form of Rotom back to its normal form unless you have an empty slot on your team. That's also another possibility. But I think this is going to be cool, because not only is it your ally and your cool, awesome aspect of Pokemon, the cool feature is that you can use like QR, well, I don't know if you would use Rotom Pokedex, but there are QR codes that are going to happen for Sun and Moon, where you can scan a QR code with Pokemon Sun and Moon, and then that Pokemon will be added to your Pokedex, you know. And there is a screenshot. I don't know if I'm going to show it to you, but if you do see it, you'll see that it's like Pikachu. You'll see that or whatever. And of course, it'll be a QR code of Pikachu in the Pokedex. and the Rotom Pokedex will show you where you can find it, whatever. But the more interesting feature, although that is a really cool feature to actually have the Pokedex being on the touchscreen or whatever, but the most interesting feature and a really cool feature that I feel like could have easily have been introduced a long time ago is that we get a live map on the touchscreen because of Rotom Pokedex. Basically, well, I guess you could say it's kind of like cheating a little bit. I mean, it's helping you out or whatever. It's kind of like hand-holding you. But I kind of like it because there are aspects of this in very difficult games where there is a map that shows you live notes or whatever, or live your live position. It's not something that's static. It, like most maps, just basically show where you are, and it blinks where you are, and that's pretty much it. And then you have to get to the next big location before it'll tell you where you are. But this particular Rotom Pokedex will pinpoint your exact location on the map, which is really cool. So you won't have to get lost in regards to towns. You can probably see which buildings you might be able to enter, what buildings would be highlighted, or whatever, what would be important. And the important thing is that there are games out there where it's extremely difficult to beat, where they actually have that kind of feature. So I don't necessarily think it's hand holding you, and I'm sure you don't have to use it or whatever, but I think it's a really cool, neat feature. So let's quickly move on. So, of course, let's talk about Coro-Coro. Now, before I talk about the really cool information that was revealed, let's talk about Magearna. Magearna's ability is, if anyone has paid attention to the movie, is not going to be surprised. And, of course, Magearna's ability is Soul Heart. Now, if you don't know anything about the anime or the movies, or at least are caught up on the information in regards to the movie, you'll know that the Soul Heart is what gives Magearna its life, basically. It's what gives Magearna its ability to be a Pokemon, basically. It's the special energy source that gave Magearna life. And of course, the evil villain is trying to take it because it's a very powerful energy source. And it's like there's nothing more about it. There's nothing more in regards to the Soul Heart, so it would make sense that Magearna's ability would be Soul Heart. Also, it has a signature move called the Fleur Cannon, which, while it's not confirmed, it's giving that it's pink. I'm pretty sure it's a fairy type, although I won't be surprised if it's like Flying Press and it's both fairy and steel, which would definitely be interesting. But the most important aspects of Coro-Coro were revealed were, of course, the brand new Pokemon that were revealed. And of course, the Pokemon that were revealed is making me think that I'm probably going to enjoy this generation the most. It was the same thing with 6th generation. 6th generation had solid designs. I liked a lot of them. In fact, I liked them all, although some of them I could agree were ugly, but that didn't necessarily detract from how much I enjoyed them. Even Honedge and Doublade, things that I don't really like in their unsheathed forms or whatever, are very weird and strange, but they're Pokemon nonetheless. And of course, we have Aegislash, which of course is a really cool Pokemon indeed. So of course, what we have here is in the scan, of course, we see something that a lot of people were expecting that I didn't know. Then again, I haven't really watched anyone's videos and what they wanted Pokemon to appear as. And of course, we see Koala. And of course, that's its Japanese name. So far, we don't have the English names. It could be the English name. Koala could be the English name or whatever. But basically, we have this half asleep Pokemon. I think that's what it is. Half awake Pokemon. It is a normal type. Koala is a normal typing. It's half asleep, and it has this ability called Definitive Sleep. Although I won't be surprised if the ability will be changed to Narcolepsy in the English translation. Although I'm not really sure if that's appropriate. I don't know if they would go so that extreme, because narcolepsy is a neurological condition. I don't know if an ability would be named after that. I can't think of all the abilities, but so Definitive Sleep basically is a lot of people are calling it an overpowered ability. I guess in some aspects it would be overpowered, especially if there are strategies that you would want to use in regards to this. But definite sleep prevents Niquala from being afflicted any other status effect other than sleep, which means it can't be burned, it can't be poisoned, it can't be paralyzed, which is definitely really interesting. And it fits the whole theme of Niquala being a half awake Pokemon. So, yes. So it is definitely very interesting, or whatever. So let's quickly move on to, of course, this Pokemon. So, of course, what we see here is a very adorable dog. This is what got my attention. I didn't do a live reaction to what was revealed in Coro-Coro because I was like, what, really? Because I saw a lot of people were like, just upload, at the time, it was like 30 minutes ago, and then, or whatever, it's like, Coro-Coro leaks or whatever, and there was these Pokemon. I was like, what? Pokemon Coro-Coro is out by now? You know, and then I went and checked, and of course Sarah B had all this information. I was like, so of course we see this cute little puppy, and of course Coro-Coro being cheeky actually is showing that it is the dog that they showed in the Coro-Coro trailer, which is actually kind of funny when you think about it, because I don't know if Coro-Coro has ever done that or whatever. They're like, remember that trailer that we showed a while ago? Remember that dog-looking creature that we saw in the trailer, but we didn't reveal it? Yeah, this is that Pokemon. You know, we didn't put that in the trailer just by accident. We did it on purpose. You know, so of course what we have here is the dog Pokemon, or the puppy Pokemon, which is named Iwanko. And it either has two potential abilities. It can either have Keen Eye, which doesn't lower accuracy, or Vital Spirit, which prevents it from sleeping. Now, the most shocking thing about Iwanko, though, is that it is a rock type. It's not a normal type, and this is exactly what I think I was talking about in my other Pokemon Sun and Moon videos when I was talking about animals and mammals and stuff, and I think I was especially talking about it in regards to the regional bird Pokemon, that I enjoy these Pokemon having various random types that aren't normal. You know, and I think I even mentioned this in one of PokeTuber's video, that a normal rock type would make sense, or whatever it was the case. It would just be like a buffalo with rock qualities, you know, like hard armor. But it looks like, rocky armor, and it looks like they completely bypassed the normal type and made Iwanko a rock type, which is really amazing. Iwanko, of course, is its Japanese, by the way. I forgot to mention that, but I would have assumed you would have already known that. But Iwanko, of course, is a rock type, which is really cool because it's really nice to see these Pokemon that would be otherwise normal types being other types or whatever, and it's really cool. Now, in regards to the anime, I'm not really going to make any discussions in regards to what I think of these Pokemon in regards to the anime. That'll probably be its own separate video or whatever, but yeah, that's very interesting. So, we don't really have anything else. Also, although I'm not really going to show you the image, but Greninja was chosen in regards to the elections that I mentioned in my anime videos or whatever, that Greninja was chosen over all the other Pokemon to be the winner of the election, so it would be distributed alongside Volcanion when the movie comes out, which is very cool. I mean, I I can't say that I'm not surprised that Greninja was chosen number one, because not only is Ash's Greninja probably the most popular Pokemon we have up to date, it's just a very cool Pokemon in of itself. You know, it makes perfect sense why Greninja was chosen to be in Smash Brothers and stuff. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say in regards to Coro-Coro, but that is not all. There's just one little bit of information that I also want to add, and of course that'll be the end of this particular video. And that, of course, is the confirmation, finally, and thankfully and fortunately, is the confirmation that Zygarde 10% and Zygarde Complete will in fact be in the games. Of course, things that we have to realize here is Zygarde's 10% form ability is known as Swarm Change, and Zygarde Complete Form's signature move is Core Punisher. We also saw Zygarde 10% using 1,000 Waves and 1,000 Arrows in the trailer. Now, the weird thing about all of this, and the thing that's catching me completely off guard, is the fact that Zygarde 10% form can immediately jump into Zygarde Complete when its health is low, apparently based on everything that's been said in regards to that. Which really doesn't make any sense, because where does 50% come from? You know, it's like they're separate Pokemon almost. It's like, well, you introduce Zygarde, but you introduce these forms, but they're kind of not connected with each other. I don't know if Zygarde 10% could change into 50% form or whatever, and it's either it could transform into 50% or complete. But the issue is, well, then why wouldn't you just go complete? Maybe it depends on the health. Maybe it'll have like some sort of form change, like Mega Evolution, depending on its health. When it's more than half or whatever, or like at halfway, maybe it can become Zygarde 50% form. And when it's even weaker, like when it's really low, then it could transform straight into Zygarde Complete. Because the one thing that is interesting to know in regards to what we know about the Zygarde forms is that Zygarde Complete is the form Zygarde takes when its 50% form is not capable of dealing with whatever threat exists out there. So I think it makes perfect sense in that kind of regard, but it does seem a little suspicious that Zygarde 10% can immediately become Zygarde Complete. It's like 50% doesn't exist, which is very troubling for something that's supposed to be forms for Zygarde 50% form. Also, I wanted to mention one other thing. Core Punisher has got to be one of the coolest moves. I don't think it's the coolest move, but I definitely think it's one of the coolest moves that we have seen. The animation of Core Punisher is really cool. What we saw is this beam, or this ball of energy glowing, and then Zygarde Complete launching it. And what it appears to be is it creates a Z with this ability, a Z on the ground, and then it erupts in power, which I think is really cool looking. You're just going to have to look at the preview or the trailer of these Zygarde forms in order to see that, but it looks really cool. So I think that's all I wanted to cover. This video isn't as long as it looks, so that's really nice. I thought this was going to be like an hour and a half video, but an hour and 10 minutes or an hour and 5 or whatever it's going to be is perfectly fine. So we still have one more thing to discuss, not in regards to anything revealed, but apparently E3 is coming out soon, and I don't know what this means. I don't know if we're going to get new Pokemon. We did get new Pokemon around E3 last time, where they revealed certain Pokemon in trailers. I don't know if that's going to be the same thing. There is going to be a treehouse of Sun and Moon, but with everything covered so far, I can't imagine that they would just talk about it again. Like repeating the same information just in a longer format. I feel like that they would reveal some new information. So I feel like maybe we'll see new Pokemon, and maybe we can talk about that. So if there's any E3 information in regards to Pokemon Sun and Moon, I will definitely do a video. Right now, though, we have to wait until next month for next Coro-Coro or any other information that is revealed at any other particular point. A Pokemon Direct or something of that nature in regards to Pokemon Sun and Moon. So if you watch just my Sun and Moon videos, I will definitely see you in my next Sun and Moon video. But if you are a all-time fan and watch all my Pokemon videos, my next video, of course, will be the miniature review of the next Pokemon anime episode. So anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Dustin Benzel, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.